the first to know. Nsem-Pii TV.
Lawyer for Adom Otchere Nsem-Pii FA Chief Justice in suspension na or refer to a Dr. Boye Emra Boye ete a obisho no de Nsem-Pii say a Justice Pwamang any or acting Chief Justice or say I deny de a mameno sebi wayanhwe han sekobase yi maame no firi ho ne de tena so a onhwe enuma bi na Adom Otchere enso edi Nsem-Pii atodwa efa sa asem krona enam so ama Boye eni obi etwetwe ho komo mo refi se ne mra na sa asem ne koso no na nana ya janto ha ono so ewo obi show no so bi mo no so de Nsem-Pii Boye edi ono so de mema no mo me wokuti Adom Otchere emra o kasafa nsema Boye edi tudwa ni na fa Chief Justice get Torkonoo no mintimra.
I'll come to that in a minute. But this is what Boye was talking about, and we liked it. In a studio in Nsem-Pii with Obi, you know, we're always watching Obi's program, about the suspension of the Chief Justice. Now, Boye is not a lawyer, so it's very interesting listening to people who are not lawyers, who are bringing the commonsensical and the social angle to this matter. This is what he said.
You see, the two Obi no one can be Otchere one shall not account. Now, Mami way, Chief Justice. One of the things I Emma and it's for be brave and penasem and it's a court 2020 no. I'm say 12-0 and I 7-0 scholar. Obi.
I scholar on football.
Utie sebi. I see doing ketia kra or babe 2 for some for no. Or no answer mo ko no mo kita hwe. Obi. You know, it's sad when Obi instead of reflecting fixing the issues Daniel ko to Obi so say no no me my psychologist it was a way of energizing the NDC base say we are lose court na I am Boye so that the base will still be energetic towards 2024, but by doing so no what could create situation ama ya 7-0 ama say no what's antagonizing the courts na only 7-0 no so mum pe unti de bia na yesa, but God is watching. If anybody tells you God plays no role in politics, it's a lie. This woman, Obi, this woman, if she goes on her knees and prays, na Obi, Sebi, ena Oyeno, Obi na tatano. I've cited the example of the 7-0. Look at some of the issues now raised here. So, Otchere suggesting my president say, or recommend you Obi. Now, me recommend you see, when you look at some of the Nyama cited or cancel lowering the threshold, ultimately say, well, Obi, why yet not dream that? If you imagine that I say, we'll deal with this person. Now, I think the next step is how do we get what we need to deal with the person? But like I'm saying, Tony Blair says something very powerful for leaders, and I'll say it. I say, when you become a leader, especially when the mandate you got is overwhelming, never be mistaken to assume that it is so much love. Most of the time, it is expectation. And that you will make enemies along the way unknowingly. Don't spend time making more enemies deliberately. Mami way, unknowingly, are they hearts that you are bringing aboard or you are losing? Obi, all I'm saying is that I
will tell you the Charlotte Osei story.
I
also had a family.
Yes. But you see, that is why Omomuka Asemeneno, me show moi now. What was their position and orientation that time?
On Charlotte Osei.
Yes. You see,
who was orientation?
I say you criticize the two Charlotte Osei.
You see,
why are you supporting?
Yes.
But
I am saying.
Obi, you see, Obi, and you see, they say little drops of water make a mighty ocean.
Yes.
It is possible that Charlotte's friends, family members, and people who were not happy. That's why I quoted Tony Blair's statement. if you can avoid. Adiamuka wasem say, in fact, Charlotte today has been giving some board BBB.
Yeah. Ghana Gas Board.
What does it tell you? If someone is not sympathetic or does not believe in the ideals of the NDC, would they be made the board chair of Ghana Gas?
Yeah,
board member. So what it tells you is that no, or your mood,
how?
Oh. Obi, me moderate. Me in case of NDC member. Me in case the ideals, the ideology, FPT, exactly. You did know. Musu kroma nyina say de Akufo-Addo ye ebia no kan na ebia ne Okobo amitina as opposition member na no de obi ye down the line ene abetra no usu ufa sa kwan no so a sebi ebetimi di wa ba ebia ye wo no edu Charlotte so no na wo ye dede obi ye dede ne o say ye kom, but question you have to ask yourself the oye na no ohwa eboa no ana amboa no. So Obi, media, me can say the man who has the chance to make history today in this country is Justice Pwamang. And that's an Ivan.
Yeah, Justice Pwamang.
Obi, people have made history for the right reasons. Obi, others have made history for the wrong reasons. My prayer for him, I've said it here, I'll repeat it, that his fidelity will lie to the content of the discussions and the cases that will come there, and not to predetermined links. My prayer for him. Why? And I mentioned it here. Because those who gave him the task already have a wish. Makanda, and yeah, I did Kukum. President Oka publicly, not Kukum, say, they have to reset that whole place, starting with the woman. But my prayer with him is that, say, Okomuna content, no, Obi, content, no, or showcase now the outcome is that the woman should go. Sebi, her blood will not be on her hands.
Which blood?
But what I say, a figurative expression. I don't want your blood on my hands. It is best they be too no, misuna fire. That's what I say. And yes, be kuna na baby. So the point I'm making is that Obi, that man has the opportunity to make history. And unfortunately for him, he can't choose the other option. He will definitely make one which is on the right side of history, or the other way on. And I'm happy you're a lawyer. Students will come 20, 30, 100 years down the line. They will look at the Pwamang report and they will use it to teach students how his fidelity to the law stood, whether it advanced the cause of the law and justice or it betrayed the law and justice. And I keep on saying, I pray for him because it is not easy when the one who gives you a task. And yeah, easy. Say nipa all small say you be man no. Who idea of the Otchere? And yeah, easy. I pray for him.
MPP Congress. In terms of the timing, doing it 7 months, 8 months after a heavy election defeat, was it too early or too late?
I think it was just about the right time, because if it was earlier, people would have felt as if they were in a rush. After every election, after every huge major political election, or even any endeavor at all, one of the things that is important is to do a review, is to do self-introspection. That is good corporate governance. And so it was important that this happened. And if that had happened too early in terms of a conference, then it would have been seen as they taking for granted whatever happened in 2024. But there was also the Microcue Committee, and they went in to do that kind of research to see why they lost. So I think that coming in after the Microcue Committee, the Council of Elders meeting, I think this was right about the good time. And I have to commend them, because if they had also waited later, then the divisions, the controversies, the visceral, antipathy that is in the party would fester or will deepen. And so I think this was really about the right time to bring everybody together to say, okay, do not lose hope. We can do something about this, but then at the same time also to say that it is about time we close ranks. So I think the timing was pretty good.
But is the division over because of the Congress? They are still fighting for flag bearership, leadership, so they are still fighting?
Yeah, they are still fighting. Well, I mean, that is very characteristic of the game of politics. And people would always say that, yes, the primaries are fair game, that is the right time to do the intra-party competition. But right after that, of course, everybody runs back to the center. So, you know, the immediate and central implication of what has happened is that we are beginning to see the strengthening of the intra-party political system in Ghana as well. I've always believed, and the political scientists will say, that the health of a democracy is inextricably connected with the health of the political parties, because the democratic enterprise is built around the fulcrum of the political parties. And so the more there is intra-party democracy in the parties, the more there is participation in the parties in a very direct sense. And that was a major theme coming out of the Congress, the call for greater grassroots participation. The more there is accountability in the political parties in terms of who did what in the run-up to the election. And the more there is honesty and review in the party, the better this translates into the democracy that we have. Because if you don't do this at the party level, I mean, how are you going to do that when you get to the national stage? So yes, those divisions will be there, those factions will be there, and it is important for intra-party competition, intra-party democracy. So I don't think that it will go away completely. But then if you listen to Dr. Bawumia's speech, one of the things that he strategically did was to give a cue to that, to say that yes, we are going to have the competition, we are going to have all these factions, but it is important for us to come together to unite. It is important for us to do away with the acerbic language, the uncivil language, the intemperate language that has denigrated the quality of politics that we have, and that could also affect the party in the national or in the generals. So yes, the competition will be there, the debates will be there, but at least it was important for everybody to come together for the very first time after the election in a major or in a very big way to say that yes, there is hope, and there's a party that we have to build, and we got to move on.
Now, what they set out to achieve, or what they should have been achieving in terms of party reputation, did they get anything out of it?
I think they did, by and large. Because, Paul, you know, the thing about these contests is that it was a very bruising election. This was not just any loss. I mean, to every extent and parameter, it was a very debilitating one. And so many political observers, even the Ghanaian public, were watching. Well, this is that bad. How are they going to regroup? How are they going to come back after this loss? I mean, if you watch the social media commentary, some people have said the party is finished and that it's going to take a very long time to get out of this. And indeed, I mean, it was a very major cataclysmic defeat. And so, in terms of the public imagery, in terms of what they wanted to communicate to get out of this, to see a political entity, and we know that the NDC had this themselves when they had the walks and they did other attempts after they lost in 2016. And so for a political entity, it was important for them to communicate that brand, to communicate that image, and to send out that message. And if you look at the planning of the events, I think across the broad swath of the Ghanaian commentary or the Ghanaian public, a lot of people have said that, well, this was a very well-organized Congress. This was a very disciplined Congress. I mean, away with the violence, away with the beatings, away with the degeneration that often goes on in that event. And I think beyond the party, it was an exhibition of democracy in Africa, that we can do this in our own way. Remember, Paul, I mean, you and I did the primaries across the global perspective. Comparatively, we've covered these things internationally and globally. And this is a good advertisement for democracy in Africa. Because if you look at the primaries, which are very big in the US, in other places, last year, Good Evening Ghana, we were in Boston, in Chicago, in different places.
The Democratic primaries and the Republican.
And the Republican primary. And they practice the direct kind of primary, or the direct, what we call the direct democracy for some of them, where everybody has the opportunity to vote. And